All right, and here we are on the writing across of rulership, starting with the 1-3 profile. Look at the first line, taking stock. It's about getting rid of negative thoughts at the personal level. It's about thinking the whole world is against you. Oh my God. It's about all of that kind of inner fears, hardship. Life is hard, but it's also something else to recognize. It really is about getting down to business. You're taking stock. You got to figure it out. You got to work it out. You got to get ready to get out there and face the hardship. Now it's a first line theme and it's a 1-3. But when you're dealing with a 1-3, you're dealing with a foundation of materialism. You're dealing with the basis of mutation with the third line theme. And we know that 1-3s are going to be able to see that the foundation aren't solid. You're going to go through the third line process of discovery. And we also know that if you're 47 and you have a 3 in your profile, the chances are not self that you've got just not got a fucked up head. You just have a mind that is disturbed because you can have so many things that bother you that are unresolved because we already learned that there is no resolution. Remember that this is about not simply dealing with rulership as a theme, it's a cross theme. So, what we really have to focus here is that it's all about duality. In other words, somebody comes in on the cross of rulership and they're not going to share authority with their partner. The cross of rulership says, I'm the boss. This is not gender related. In other words, this is not an archetype where you have more men saying they're the boss than women. If you really looked at the nature of male female relationships, you'll see that there's always one partner in almost all cases that in fact rules. With my children, as my something that I know I can't answer alone. I say, go ask the boss. There's always somebody that rules. It's the nature of relationships, and it's brought to us by the 47 gate. The 47 gate takes stock and says, well, again, it's the abstract way of trying to deal with partnership. And remember the themes we got through. All this stuff about his partner, it's the consciousness. It's this, it's that. You have to find the right this and the right that, and then it will be able to work with. This is something saying something else completely entirely. It's saying that the way what I look at it is that it can be material viable. The way to really have a relationship work is be successful. The more successful you are, you'll see after taking stock that the more money you have, the less trouble you see in your relationship. Think about not self relationship. Now you think about the vast Western context. If you're a couple and you have a couple of kids, you're just above the poverty line. Maybe you earn 25,000 or whatever a year. Any problem that you have is a huge problem. Any expense that you have is a challenge. Anything that could go wrong is a threat. You probably don't have the proper coverage for this or the kinds of things that you're afraid of. Your children are denied the possibility of going into better schools or living on a better home. There's all this stuff. The 4171 says is that in my research, it seems clear that when there's enough material, there's not less problems. It's so true. It's not that the rich don't have problems. Everybody has problems. It's not that the point. The point is that if you take somebody who's borderline in terms of assets and ability to be able to move material, and you just give them 25 or 30% increase, you'll see that if you measure the interaction with their partner, you've got a siding gradient that goes down, and this little thing that becomes big things now are just little things. The child comes home in poverty and says, I have to have this book, and this book has to be purchased, and the money isn't there. And all of a sudden, why can't you earn enough? And why we always like this? And why don't do something about it? And all the fights that rise out of that. The 47 one says, wait a minute, wait a minute. The one he says, hey, just go to work, man, make more money, make sure that this is the way, and make sure that you rule. I think one of the biggest challenges in relationships that have taken place since 1961 is the fact that the women's liberation, sexual changes in our society have allowed working couples to be able to bring in the kind of material that had never been possible. Now, of course, that's not true for everybody, but the fact of the matter is that this is the theme there. Rulership is about money, and this is also a problem when it comes to the way in which these partnerships work, because invariably it's one partner is ultimately, in more sense, can male that is actually going to go out and being the breadwinner. So you end up with this situation in which I pay, I rule. This is the way it's going to be. I don't mind flying in space with you. I don't even mind looking after you, but I pay, I rule. This is one of those things. And of course, it creates dilemmas in terms of it. There's enough where one partner is always seeking, asking from the other. And remember, rulership is about being able to listen, yet you're the ruler. So when you're looking at the 47 and everybody looks at the 47, they get stuck in all of this classic superficial design analyzes businesses. They get into the 64, 47, and it's the abstract mind. And it's confusing, and they have to make sense out of these things. But I want you to go deeper because you can see inherent in the 47 a quality in its quarter. After all we have only seen it through the other quarters. Here it sits on its own place. So you can see it's very, very focused to what rulership begins at home. I am the king of my castle. Rulership begins at home. Okay, now we go to 1 4. When you're dealing with the 1 4, there's going to be a challenge to this. That is, whatever you see, what it's going to take with you. Remember, the underlying theme of this line is a kind of paranoia. The world is against you. You got all these negative thoughts and you want to get rid of it. You must understand that the negative aspect of this line is what drives to its material direction. And when you couple it with the 3, you got the strong material drive. And when you couple it with a 4, you don't. What happens to the 1 4 child is it either identifies with the ruler of the ruled. The boy will identify with his father, the whole Oedipus Electra phenomena. The girl who will identify with the role of the mother in a sense. So if the mother rules the roost, the daughter will grow up to rule the roost. If the father rules the roost, the son will grow up to rule the roost. It's just a pattern that they're going to follow. And it's a pattern that's going to say to them, I don't want to be the victim. Whenever you see a rulership relationship where somebody has this cross, it would be great to do interviews of their children and to ask the children about who wears the pants in the family, how much suffering is attached to that. Because remember something, it's one thing to be the ruler, but you're trying to do is that the world may against you, so now you're going to rule, which means that you're against the other. There are many things caught up in this. It will be quite messy. So follow your strategy, honor your authority. Everything's going to be fine. Good luck with that.